So I went into this one with really high expectations because Armando Iannucci, he did In the Loop, and that's one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's one of the most brilliant satires of all time. And this one, it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be, but I still think it was very good. Now understand, satire is... What the fuck is that sound? Satire is different than comedy. So while this wasn't as funny as In the Loop, and it wasn't as funny as it might have been, I think it was a very effective satire of the Soviet Union. So right off the bat, we see a distinctly Soviet Union form of incompetence, which is very different than American incompetence or British incompetence. Soviet Union incompetence is they need a doctor, but all the doctors, because everything is so politicized, all the best doctors have been fired, have been sent to the gulag, so that's one factor. And then another factor is the doctors that they do find that they bring in, they're so scared of giving the wrong answer and giving the wrong diagnosis that they really can't give an accurate diagnosis. So that's an example of, again, an incompetence that's distinctly Soviet Union. And in the Soviet Union, it's this environment of paranoia and walking on eggshells and everyone knowing that the slightest misstep could get you killed or sent to the gulag. So everyone is... There's this kind of laughter, but it's this particular kind of laughter, this nervous, almost unhinged, hysterical laughter that I thought was used to great effect. And there's this one scene that's absolutely brilliant. So Stalin had these body doubles, these lookalikes, and when he dies, immediately what happens is these guards go and they kill all these lookalikes, and then the guards, because it's this era of theater with these lookalikes, but also extreme secrecy and understanding the importance of secrecy and image and myth, all the guards that kill these body doubles, not only do the body doubles die, but then the guards, they do this thing like in The Dark Knight Rises where all the guards start shooting each other until only one guard at the end is left, and that's the single guard that knows the truth about the situation. And we see the long shadow that Stalin casts after his death. People absolutely terrified him, but also those closest to him, most pro-Stalin, how immediately after his death they care nothing about his funeral or his legacy. All they start to think about is how can I maneuver this situation to my advantage? And we see the peak of this when they're all carrying his coffin and they're talking to each other across the coffin, trying to plot this coup. I thought it was so well done. And just the pettiness, arguing over which word in the sentence was stressed, the paranoia, someone says, you're going to be safe. And then immediately you interpret it negatively. Well, what do you mean? Why wouldn't I be safe? And I love the scene of them voting. They're all kind of trying to decide on policy. And no one really cares at all about what policy. All anyone cares about is staying safe, not dying, staying with the majority. So everyone like tentatively putting up their hands, looking around the room, trying to read the room. I just thought it was a brilliant satire. Again, not always the funniest movie, but really effectively nailed the vibe and skewering the old Soviet Union and its flaws. And what I really liked is sometimes we think about these great events in history, these power struggles, as momentous and important and weighty, and we view them through history, and they take on this larger-than-life significance when really, oftentimes, they're very petty, and they're these small bickering and maneuvering, and it's very small and petty when history sometimes makes it seem like they're these larger-than-life figures, when no, sometimes they're just normal people, and oftentimes even more vain and shallow and petty than anyone else. And I thought the actors did a really good job. Steve Buscemi, he's playing Khrushchev, so he's having this power struggle with Beria, who's pure evil, by the way. Google Beria, B-E-R-I-A, and rape, and then read through these articles. Just horrible, horrible guy, and I feel like they did make him seem like a really bad guy, which I liked. I think he was such a bad guy, you don't want to humanize him at all. And they made him seem like a complete sadist. The movie, I think the first time we see him, he's giving orders about who to shoot, and he says, you know, shoot her, but then shoot him, or sorry, shoot her and make sure he sees it, and then shoot him. Just kind of a sadist, loves inflicting pain. And then Jason Isaacs, who's my favorite character from the new Star Trek. He was very funny as this alpha male general that comes in. Malenkov, he's the one who's completely overwhelmed, thrust into power when he really has no idea what to do. So he does comical things, like he wears these absurd suits, does this absurd thing with his hair, trying to, you know, emulate the cult of Stalin, but just failing miserably. And Molotov was very funny as well, as someone who's just terrified of going against Stalin, going against orthodoxy. Some really cool visuals, like some aristocratic mansions with pillars, high ceilings, chandeliers, nice faded yellows and whites, kind of a cool look. But bottom line, I think if you go into this and you're expecting very similar to Iannucci's other work, Veep, In the Loop, you're going to be disappointed, because I don't think it's as funny. I don't think it's the same. It's very different. But I think if you go in and you're a fan of the Soviet Union and you know these historical figures, I think you'll get a real kick out of this one. And I think it does a good job. It's an effective satire, probably a better satire than very funny comedy.